to Uplift, inspiring stories to uplift the world. I am Gemma Serenity Gorokov, your host, and today we have a guest that I personally requested to come on the show. Here is why. When you know Sasha, who is a co-founder of this show, and you know that he's living with pain 24/7, and I know how he actually deals with it, and if he doesn't tell you that, you would never ever guess. And when I see Alec, breakthrough chronic pain coach, and then reading through his LinkedIn post, all the description, sharing his story and everything, I was there, oh my God, that is such a great fit for Uplift. Let's have Alec come in person, tell his story with all that energy that comes from inspiring and uplifting the world through pain and release of pain, because pain has an origin, and we're going to talk about that. Welcome, Alec. So happy to have you here.
Thanks, Gemma. I'm so grateful to be here as well, and have been really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. So let's start with the origin of your experience of pain. What happened? From where? Accident? Birth? What is it?
Yeah, it is a path that I did not think that I would be going on, but I am a breakthrough chronic pain coach. I'm also a former semi-professional cyclist, and I got into this work and really my life's purpose because I was in the deep, dark depths of chronic pain. So I'll take you back over a decade ago. When I was 18 years old, I was a semi-pro cyclist, and I was really trying to become a professional. And I was going to college at the time, but my main goal was like cycling. I wanted to just be a professional cyclist, race in the Tour de France, do all those things. And I was out on a training ride one day, and was just riding along. And all of a sudden, I just felt this crippling pain in my lower back. It was as if somebody stuck a lightning rod right in there and like twisted my spine from end to end. And I thought like, whoa, this is really weird. This is not like just a little niggle of pain. So I went home, I iced it, I saw a chiropractor, and the chiropractor said, Alec, don't worry, 2 weeks and you're going to be back on top. And I was thinking, great, that's fine. I'm in the middle of racing season. I have these big races coming up, one of which was my first legitimate pro race that Lance Armstrong had won 2 years prior. And I was thinking, okay, great. I'm still going to be good for these big races. Well, 2 weeks pass. My pain is getting worse. And then 4 weeks pass, and then 8. And then pretty soon I'm in this space of pain from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And I'm trying all these physical treatments and nothing's working. And it starts to erode these other areas of my life as well, where it's not just I can't ride a bike, but when I go back to college, I can't sit through my lectures. I'm in constant pain. It's affecting my mood. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling hopeless and zapping all of my energy. And so I was really in this, started to be in this place of desperation. And I was diagnosed eventually after 6 months. I got an MRI, and I was diagnosed with a ruptured spinal disc, an L4, L5 to be exact. And that was the start of when things really started to go off the rails.
That is bad. I'm sorry. Okay, so, and I guess that all your dream of Tour de France and everything just went down the drain, and just let Lance Armstrong be who he is and let that dream go. How awful. I mean, I know because my ex-husband was also a professional cyclist. And I know for a fact that when you are an athlete and when you are after your goal and you put all your energy, all your intention, all your money, all your time, all your thoughts, your visualization, there is only that. Now get that off. There is no life anymore.
What are you left with?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. Because that is all your life. So when suddenly your health gives up, leaving you on top of that in pain 24/7, The level of depression, I cannot even imagine. I hope that you got some big support. I can see that you are here and you're doing well, so something good happened.
Yes.
However, how long after, and how long did you stay in that hole of desperation and pain?
Yeah. So there's a happy ending to all this. But you're
I
right.
continue.
Well, I remember, to your point, I was sitting in a sociology lecture, and they were talking about how when your identity is ripped from you, I was 18, 19 at the time. When your identity is ripped from you, it can be profoundly destabilizing. And I just had this moment of clarity of that's exactly what happened. It's not just the pain, it's what the pain represents. It rips your identity away. It leaves you hopeless. It leaves you fearing the future. And the lowest point for me was after I got that MRI, I got a series of epidural injections where they basically inserted needles into my spine and put basically steroids in order to quell the pain that was around my disc. The first one worked for a few days, pain got better, and then it came back. So they scheduled the second one. The second one, the pain got better for hours, and then it came back worse than ever before. And that's when I made the decision to withdraw from college to go back home. And I spent the next few months partially bedridden. I was on strong painkillers. I was on opioids, and I was essentially just depressed. If I wasn't in bed, I was eating my meals standing up or going to physical therapy or chiropractic or acupuncture, trying all of these things. And it was in these depths. I spent over a year out of college and in this place of believing that I was going to have to, or fearing rather, that I was going to be in this place of limitation for the rest of my life. Because I knew people in family members who had experienced back issues as well, and they've dealt with it for 50 or 60 years. So I was, told like, hey, this might be the case for you. And things started to change when I started to question what was actually really going on with my pain. I would have, you might be able to tell, but I had a very perfectionistic personality, still a little bit do to this day. And I would have days where, the doctors would say, here are all the things that you should do. Ice your back, rest, don't do too much physical activity. If you're going to do activity, do it in this way. I would follow that all to the T. And in those days, I could have more pain than the days where I did everything opposite of what they said to do. Too much physical activity, too much bending, all this stuff. And I started to question what's going on. Like, this doesn't seem to make sense. My pain, it's in my back. Sometimes it radiates down my legs. Sometimes it's more on the left side. Sometimes it's more on the right. Like, what is actually going on? I think this is a common experience of people when they have pain. And I started to question, well, okay, if I have this structural issue, why would this be the case, right? It's not like somebody who has a broken ankle on the right ankle, the left ankle starts to hurt. And my questions really got answered when I read a book by Dr. John Sarno, who is a professor of rehabilitation medicine at NYU and a best-selling author. He wrote the book, The Mind-Body Prescription, and Healing Back Pain, which is his back-specific book. And he basically talked about how emotions and essentially a fear response can be responsible for pain. And how if you were to take, for example, 100 people who had chronic back pain and 100 people who don't have chronic back pain, the number of back abnormalities like degenerative discs and herniated discs and all these things would be roughly equal in those two groups. And that was the light bulb moment of, wait a minute, there's something else that's going on here that isn't structural. And that was really my gateway into exploring this deeper inner world of what's actually going on with my pain and my symptoms.
I can hear that. So understanding that now you have a light bulb moment. Now you realize that pain is not only physical, but mind, body, soul, spirit, everything is one and the same. Everything gets created in your mind first before it comes in the body and in your physical reality. Wow. So how are you going to change your life now that you have this big aha moment?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And a few things happened, and it all stems from hope. Because the message of that book was, and I didn't, the first time I read it, I thought it was hogwash because I saw my MRI with my ruptured spinal disc. I'm like, this is clear, like it's pinching on my spinal nerves and everything. This has got to be causing my pain. The second time I read it, I saw myself on every page. I saw how Dr. Sarnow talks about the personality traits that chronic pain sufferers tend to have, the life stressors, the history of events, maybe ACEs, for example, that people can go through, and how that is, if you are in chronic pain, there's a lot of tie-in with those. And it was this moment of hope where I was like, okay, wait a minute, maybe I'm actually not broken. Maybe my body's actually okay. And starting to explore that. And so a few different things, like really being curious with my pain of, can I start to see some inconsistencies with it, where, like I mentioned before, are there days where my pain is, better doing this activity than it was the day before? Or are there times when the pain is starting to change, starting to move around where it doesn't make sense? And starting to build evidence around that. And all the idea that, this pain can actually be brain generated in nature. It might not be structural. And at the same time, this is when I started to explore going inward through meditation and guided imagery. So before this, I was not a meditator. I didn't consider myself to be spiritual, but there was a doctor locally, Dr. Martin Rossman, who had these guided imagery visualizations, going to a healing place and imagining your body being able to heal itself just with the innate wisdom that you have. And I started to do that 1, 2, 3 times a day, these 30-minute exercises, and really started to see benefits from that, and started to see, wait a minute, I can actually, I have a measure of agency over my pain. It's not just this thing happening to me. I am playing an active role in the pain that is happening. And that was a hugely empowering moment. And everything just kind of spiraled or snowballed in a positive way from that. And within a couple of weeks, I started to see that all of my back pain, which had been in my low back for 2 years, Gemma, shifted to my mid back. And that's when I knew I had it on the run. Because if there was something wrong with my lower back, there's no way that all of that pain would have just shifted into my mid back. And that was when I knew I'm on the right track. And I kept going with this. And a number of weeks later, I became pain-free.
Pain-free.
Pain-free in my back.
Yeah.
What I will say is my back ceased to be an issue. What happened, though, is I started to develop these other symptoms. Like, I'd go out for a run for like a mile and I would get shin splints, or I would get pain in my ankle, or tightness in my quads, or if I was throwing a baseball, my arm would kind of go weak. And it was, Dr. Sarnow talks about how, in his words, repressed emotions can cause physical symptoms, right? In my experience and the research that we've seen since then, it's, I like to think of it as a fear response, right? Where sometimes people have a fear response that their body is broken or a part of their body is broken, right? Oh, my back has this issue, and therefore I need to be careful. I need to baby it. I can't do all these things. I really deeply believed that there was nothing wrong with my back. However, there were still other areas that were triggering this danger signal, where personality traits based in fear, people pleasing, perfectionism, low self-esteem, emotions that I wasn't allowing myself to express, and these other symptoms that started to crop up. It was kind of like my mind and body saying, until you go really more inward and start to do this deeper inner systemic work and take a hard look at yourself, you're going to keep getting these little things that pop up. And that was the start of a journey of working with a therapist, and really kind of doing my own internal exploration, not necessarily to get rid of any symptoms. Well, there was a bit of that, but more so to really understand, actually, who am I? How have I been limiting myself And if I've been creating this pain, what else am I creating in my life? What other negative things that maybe aren't serving me? And how can I potentially change them?
I mean, you have touched the key point of everything that we are all learning during this lifetime over here on Earth. Because we are going through the entire spirals of emotions, up and down. We are experiencing everything possible under the sun, same as animals do. But by becoming self-conscious, becoming aware, starting to notice those inconsistencies, starting to play with your physical experience, realizing that connection there is between your thoughts, your imagination, your emotions, and how your body shows it.
Yeah. It's the
That
key
is
piece of
key.
all this.
That is key.
Exactly. Because to that point, Gemma, that is a radical concept, I think, for a lot of us, especially when it comes to medicine, right? We are told that there's this biomechanical model, right? Where if you have pain in an area, you get an X-ray or an MRI of that area, you see something wrong in that area, you need to treat that area. And it's pretty radical to take a step back and see everything be holistically connected. And we're taught that the mind and body are separate. That's literally what most Western medicine talks about. However, we all know that's not true, right? If you're giving a presentation in front of a big group, you feel butterflies in your stomach. That nervousness you're feeling, that emotion is translated to a physical feeling in your body. If you drink alcohol, you know that physical substances change your mind. So it works in both ways. But it's so easy for us, especially in the society of instant gratification, to want a quick fix to things. We want some pill or a practitioner or a physical treatment to fix us. And the idea is that it needs to come from the outside in. That's what we're told. But really what this work is all about is healing yourself from the inside out, and also recognizing in certain ways that you're not broken. You're not a bad person if you feel certain emotions or if you have certain personality traits. You're not being fake. You've learned these, adaptations that have kind of been these layers of crap that have been put over who you are as a from a sense of your true essence, we can say. So really this work, it starts wanting to, get rid of symptoms. That's how I approach it. That's how so many of the clients that I work with approach it. And then over time, it starts to shift into this. How can I be more of an active player in my life instead of a passive victim?
That's fabulous. Because when you become victorious over your pain, meaning not victim anymore, you release that victim identity. You release that you suffered so much. You release that it's over. It was your experience before. And now that your greatest misery becomes your greatest ministry.
Ooh, yes. And that's what happened in my life, right? Like this experience, I remember journaling about this, and in the deep, dark depths of it, I was really depressed. I had suicidal thoughts. I thought this was going to be the rest of my life. And the fact that over a decade later, if my younger self in that time, in the depths of that depression, could see the meaning that experience gave me in the work that I'm doing now and the people that I'm able to help, like you talk about misery turning into your ministry. Like that's exactly what happened with me. It was extremely challenging to go through that experience. And we all have experiences like this, right? I don't think mine is unique. And I think there is something profoundly that I feel gratitude for in seeing the silver lining of that and seeing the phoenix that rose from the ashes of that experience.
That's beautiful. Alec, you're really blessing us with your insights, because having gone through that level of pain, having cracked the code of why do we experience pain. And now being able to not only put the words on it, do your spiritual inner work to release those emotions, to release all that misalignment in your thought between your higher self and your lower self, between in your internal, I call that your mental landscape, the stories you tell in your mind about your life and everything, and how you tell yourself the story of the meaning you give to things around you. And when you truly change those things, it modifies your identity. Because now you were going from the gold medal, being a professional cyclist all your life, at least a very, very long time. And that dream got shattered by pain because of unresolved emotion, pent up, twisting your spine in such excruciating pain that it's actually stopping you on your track and stopping you on your dreams, stopping you on your objectives, your destination, and forcing you to ask deep, real questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my ministry? If it is not to be the best cyclist ever, what is it? Yeah. And now you discovered, well, if it is to understand what pain is actually about, I may be able to help so many people, and I will help and inspire so many more people out of pain than by being Lance Armstrong number 2.
Exactly. And I don't think I was ever going to be at that level either. That's the thing too with this. Well, and the reason I say that is I think part of the reason that I got the pain when I did is, I deeply believe that our pain is trying to serve us in some way, shape, or form, right? So all pain at the base of it is a protection mechanism, right? If you put your hand on a hot stove, you are going to feel pain before there's any tissue damage because your brain is saying, hey, Gemma, your hand is on this hot stove. It's dangerous. Take your hand off, right? And there are instances of people that are suffering, terrible physical injury, and they don't have any pain because, for example, if you're a soldier in war and you are running and you break your ankle, you're running away from danger, your brain isn't going to generate that much pain because it's trying to get you out of that dangerous situation. And then afterwards, you're going to have pain, right? So understanding that pain is always trying to serve us in some way, shape, or form, and that the pain is this oftentimes because of the emotions that we have experienced, because of potentially the traumas, because of the personality traits, maybe the way that we were raised, we have this internal fight or flight response that's turned on when all of these things threaten to come to the surface, because we've learned that they're dangerous because maybe when we were younger, we were met with, being put in timeout when we were angry or when we cried. So we've learned that these things are not safe, and society, doesn't necessarily value certain emotions being shared either. And so when all of this happens, we have this internal fight or flight response that says, whoa, we're starting to feel stuff that's not safe. We need to push that away. Oh, let's generate some pain. And it becomes this beacon of, hey, something in our vicinity is not safe. And so the reason I share that is because so many people see their symptoms as something that they need to beat or battle. And really, if you can see it as part of you that is trying to protect you, it becomes much more easeful. You're not pushing against something, but rather you're working with it. You can ask yourself internally, oh, what's the danger? What's the threat right now? Like we were talking just before we started recording with your wrist that was sore, this anger that had been coming up. It's like, if there's pain there, it's this signal of, oh, this anger might be dangerous, or, hey, there's something that, there is to pay attention to. So it becomes a gift in a way.
It really is. Yeah, I agree with that. And indeed, I mean, about a month ago, suddenly my wrist started to hurt. And when I realized something is that when I'm angry, what do I do? And if you do that and you hit something, you're going to have so much wrist pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why here? Because just like hit the table or hit the floor or hit something to actually express and release that anger of a moment for a reason, fine. But that reaction, that emotion translates into pain. And from that moment of anger, 1 month ago, I'm still in pain.
Right.
It's like, gosh. And fluctuating. Because emotions are not constant, they are fluctuating.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're speaking to is the idea that, as Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, the body is the unconscious mind, right? So all of the things that are, the emotions, the beliefs and everything that we have, it shows up in our body, right? Because we are at the core of it, we are energy. And it's interesting too, like you talk about, hitting your wrist or your hand in anger, and you have wrist pain. It's always fascinating to see, where pain develops in people's bodies, right? In some cases, it can be, related to exactly what you shared there. If sometimes, like, let's say you have a manager who's like a pain in your neck, maybe you'll get pain in your neck. If you have a family member or a close friend who has certain symptoms, those have been proven to be transmittable, right? There's these really interesting instances of contagion spread through TikTok among teenage girls and certain symptoms and things. And just by watching TikTok videos, all these teenage girls develop the same symptoms, right? So it's really fascinating to see all the different ways that symptoms can arise in our body and what it might mean.
That's fascinating.
Endlessly so.
Yeah. All right. So we have an easy way to connect with you online. Yourname.com, aleckassin.com.
Yes.
So for those who are only listening and not watching, Alec, A-L-E-C, Kassin, K-A-S-S-I-N. All right?
You got it. And what I'll say there as well is on my website, if this sparked interest in your own symptoms, your own chronic pain journey, if you're listening to this, I have a quiz on my website that will, within about 3 minutes, help you assess if the symptoms that you are experiencing are this fear response, are essentially neuroplastic generated by the brain. There's a scientifically validated measurement to be able to assess this. And within 3 minutes, you can figure that out on my website, aleckassin.com. And if anybody has any questions or wants to share anything, they can reach me at alec@aleckassin.com.
That's easy. And by the way, LinkedIn is also just Alec Kassin in the URL.
Yes.
So very easy. And I'm telling you again for the audience, Alec publishes on LinkedIn his stories in the description of any wonderful picture. It's not often, but when it is worth reading. So go get to know him through all his ups and downs stories on LinkedIn, because this is where he shares the most, and connecting with him, there is nothing easier. All right?
Perfect.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Gemma. This was wonderful.